This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, April 14, 2021. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. Want to begin this half hour with this. Today, the president is expected to announce plans to completely withdraw from Afghanistan, but he's extending the May 1st deadline set by the Trump administration to September 11th of this year. As Heather Sells reports, the plan has drawn fire from lawmakers in both parties.
The U.S. sent troops to Afghanistan 20 years ago. It has helped to largely cripple al-Qaeda and kill Osama bin Laden, the architect of the 9/11 attacks. It has also led to progress in Afghan democracy and women's rights, something critics fear could be lost if the U.S. pulls out.
Ultimately, any peace that is going to be lasting and that is going to be just has to be Afghan-led.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the president is committed to a complete troop withdrawal. The decision will end an almost $1 trillion investment by the U.S. that's killed more than 2,000 troops and wounded 20,000.
I will say that the president has been consistent in his view that there's not a military solution to Afghanistan, that we have been there for far too long. That has been his view for some time. Well documented, well reported on.
The word of Biden's decision led to bipartisan criticism. Republicans quickly blasted the president's move, with Senator Mitch McConnell calling it a grave mistake and Lindsey Graham a disaster in the making. And in the House, Liz Cheney says the pullout will only embolden the jihadists who attacked us 20 years ago. Among Democrats, Senate Armed Services Committee Chair Jack Reed is unenthusiastic, telling a reporter there is no easy answer. Senator Jeanne Shaheen said the U.S. has sacrificed too much to leave without verifiable assurances of a secure future. But there was some praise, too. Republican Senator Josh Hawley saying it's time for this forever war to end, and Senator Mike Lee glad to see us moving out. On the far left, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are showing strong support. Some close to Biden say his absolute deadline is based on this simple calculation: tying a troop withdrawal to security conditions would be, quote, a recipe for staying in Afghanistan forever. His September 11th date may help, given a desire among many Americans to put a painful piece of history in the past. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The Centers for Disease Control signals it may continue the use of Johnson & Johnson's vaccine as soon as Wednesday. The CDC's advisory committee will convene today for an emergency session to determine and vote on updated recommendations for use. Injections of the vaccine came to a sudden halt Tuesday after the FDA called for a pause. The reason for that pause is the vaccine caused a rare blood clotting disorder in 6 recipients. As of Monday, more than 6 million doses of this vaccine have been administered. It is only a small portion of the 190 million COVID vaccines. Most of the shots were from Pfizer and Moderna. Joining us now to talk more is CBN's medical reporter Lori Johnson. So, Lori, is pausing the J&J vaccine an overreaction?
Ephraim, so many health experts are saying it is an overreaction that could have deadly consequences if people misunderstand the facts of this case and don't get vaccinated. So here are the facts. We know that 6.8 million Americans have gotten the J&J vaccine, and 6 women have had these rare blood clots. We don't know if the vaccine caused them, but let's just say that it did. The chance of this happening to you is 0.0009%. So people talk about, oh, it's a 1 in a million chance. Actually, it's even rarer than that. So your chance of this happening to you is so rare that you are you're more at risk of getting struck by lightning twice. You have a 2,000% more times chance of getting blood clots from birth control pills. And here's the most important statistic, Ephraim. If you have COVID, the virus, you have an 11% chance of developing blood clots. Oftentimes, these blood clots are deadly. This is something that you and I have talked about the last year. Also, of these 6 women who got these extremely rare blood clots, 1 died. So we're talking about 1 death out of 7 million people. That's an extremely good safety record. In fact, it's better than many other pharmaceutical products on the market, including Tylenol. So a lot of folks say, yes, it is an overreaction.
With that said, when might this pause then be lifted?
Well, it could be as early as today, and health officials may say it's okay to get the J&J vaccine, but perhaps women of childbearing age, maybe not. We know that all 6 of these women are between the ages of 18 and 48, or they could say everyone's still safe to get the vaccine, although they might put a warning with it that there's a very, very rare incidence of some extremely rare blood clots associated with it.
So what should people who've gotten the vaccine be looking for?
Well, again, I'll tell you what the symptoms are, but I'm hesitant to do so because it kind of creates the impression that this might happen to you. But it's just so rare that it sort of heightens the people's anxiety about it. But of these 6 women, they had, and for other people who might wonder what they should be looking for, we're talking about extreme headache that doesn't go away, difficulty breathing, extreme abdominal pain and or leg pain that does not subside. If you have these symptoms, contact your health professional, your doctor.
So what is happening for those who were scheduled to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine?
Right. So a lot of people were expecting to get it yesterday. And when they showed up at the vaccination site, they were given the Pfizer vaccine if they wanted it. So the good news is there's plenty of Pfizer and Moderna to fill the gap. And so we're still on track, even without the J&J vaccine, to meet that goal of vaccinating everybody in the country who wants a vaccine by May 31st. And as you pointed out earlier, the J&J vaccine is really only made up about 5 or 6% of all the vaccines that have been given so far. So it's not yet the major player that many people thought it might be.
All right, Lori Johnson, always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
Sure.
The police officer who shot and killed an unarmed man during a deadly traffic stop in Minneapolis has now stepped down. Kim Potter was a 26-year veteran of the police force that is the Brooklyn Center Police Department. Also resigning, the city's police chief. Those announcements are coming in the wake of another night of unrest in Minnesota and several cities across the country. Police in riot gear deploying flashbangs and pepper balls on crowds, protesting the death of 20-year-old Dante Wright. A somber day of remembrance in Washington as lawmakers, including President Joe Biden and U.S. Capitol Police, paid respect to one of their own. Officer William Evans died in the line of duty April 2nd after a driver struck him while trying to break through Capitol barricades. Evans is the 6th person to lie in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda and the 2nd Capitol Police officer this year alone. Our CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent joins us right now to show us more on the farewell ceremony.
There's no doubt 2021 has been a tough year for the U.S. Capitol Police, which in just 4 months has lost 3 members, including Billy Evans, an officer known for his welcoming presence, dad jokes, and big smile.
Your son, your husband, your brother, your dad was a hero.
President Joe Biden, who himself has lost a wife and 2 children, spoke at Wednesday's memorial.
My prayer for all of you is that the day will come when you have that memory, and I said just smile before you bring a tear to your eyes.
Officer Evans served for 18 years. He tragically died on Good Friday when a driver rammed into the north barricade of the U.S. Capitol, killing Evans and injuring another officer.
His sacrifice recalls Scripture. Greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends.
Evans is survived by his wife and 2 children, Logan and Abigail.
Because as long as you have them, you've got Billy.
Earlier this year, Officer Brian Sicknick lay in honor after dying from injuries sustained while defending the Capitol on January 6th. Among others who've received the distinction reserved for non-government or military officials include Reverend Billy Graham and civil rights leader Rosa Parks. Evans' death comes at a time when many Capitol Police officers are still dealing with the trauma of what happened to them on January 6th and feelings of being overworked and understaffed. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Coming up, 100,000 rockets pointed at Israel by Hezbollah. What will happen if they launch, and how could the Biden administration be the trigger? The answer right after this.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Israel is making plans now that it's clear the United States will likely re-enter the Iranian nuclear deal. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell shows us what could happen if an attack from Iran were actually to happen and what it would mean for Israel and Hezbollah and Iran's proxy army.
The border here between Israel and Lebanon is deceptively quiet, but on the other side of this fence lies Hezbollah with more than 100,000 rockets that can hit almost anywhere inside Israel.
All of them were brought to Lebanon in order to be launched against Israel one day.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Sarit Zahavi studies the danger of Hezbollah through her research organization, Alma.
Hezbollah is the proxy of Iran in the region. It's the most professional proxy of Iran in the region. It's the most equipped, dangerous proxy of Iran in the region. And we are here standing, looking in the eyes of Hezbollah. And the people that are raising their kids just a few feet from us, every morning looking in the eyes of Hezbollah.
I'm standing in the village of Hanita here on the Israeli-Lebanese border. Behind me, you can see children playing in this kindergarten. And over here, you can see how close the Lebanese border is. The sense of danger is real and ever present for those living here. In 2006, they lived through a 34-day war, which saw Hezbollah fire nearly 4,000 rockets into Israel. That barrage paralyzed northern Israel, chasing 1 million Israelis to the south, while the rest spent most of that month in bomb shelters. In 2021, the IDF believes Hezbollah is once again considering attacking Israel in what Zahavi describes as days of battle.
Days of battle would mean that the people that are living just here, a few feet from us, would not be able to get out of their home because it will be too dangerous. Meaning that their children will hear the sirens every 2 weeks and will have to run for shelter. This is a reality that is unbearable for the people of the north.
This is the only active border crossing between Israel and Lebanon. The UN base is just down the road within a no man's land, and I'm standing in an IDF base that keeps constant watch over Hezbollah.
Their threat is no joke, and we never underestimate our enemy, but We keep training, we keep practicing, we keep on gathering intelligence and always getting prepared and keeping readiness for the next conflict, for the next fight, making sure we have the upper hand.
Lieutenant Dalton describes Hezbollah's military strategy as one of blending in by creating a virtual civilian camouflage.
Hezbollah decided to take the step and make all of its establishments in southern Lebanon based on civilian clothing, civilian territory, civilian houses, really blend itself, camouflage itself into the population and keep operating in. So they know to hide, whether it's taking over civilian villages or households and really setting base up over there. But our intelligence is strong enough to understand their work and how they operate and to really pinpoint the location of their bases inside civilian territory.
Another hidden weapon in Hezbollah's arsenal is these underground tunnels along the border. CBN News got a rare look into this one that took years to build. Measuring at least 25 stories deep, it had already crossed into Israeli territory before the IDF uncovered and sealed it. Zahavi's organization identified another weapon by exposing Hezbollah assembling precision-guided missiles inside Beirut.
What most Americans, most Christians in the United States, North America, and around the world don't realize is that Lebanon is important to Iran because it is the forward operating base of their most aggressive offensive attack whenever they decide to attack Israel.
Middle East expert and author of the Beirut Protocol, Joel Rosenberg warns what might happen as the Biden administration considers re-entering the Iranian nuclear deal.
If Israel feared that the Biden administration was going to go down some road of negotiations that was short-sighted, ill-conceived, and dangerous, Israel might have to attack to neutralize those sites.
That could trigger Hezbollah.
Iran would unleash a barrage, the most devastating missile attack maybe in the history of mankind. They have upwards of, I hear, 150,000 missiles positioned right across that border, all through southern Lebanon. And they would light up the skies, and all the Israel defenses, all the missile defenses we have, would do some good, but it couldn't possibly stop a barrage of thousands and thousands and thousands of missiles coming in every day.
Israel's leaders realize those dangers. Some believe the IDF's goal would be to make its next response so massive that the next war with Hezbollah would be known as the last. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, on the Israeli-Lebanese border.
Still ahead, she is one of the younger voices in a gospel music royal family, but she's already a recording artist, an actress, and an entrepreneur, and that's not all. We're going to share Kiera Sheard Kelly's newest chapter when CBN NewsWatch returns in a moment.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
First, there was choir pioneer Mattie Moss Clark, who gave birth to the legendary Clark sisters. From there, one of those sisters, Karen Clark Sheard, gave birth to Kiera Sheard, who is now Kiera Sheard Kelly. The newlywed is a recording artist, actress, entrepreneur, and a first-time author. And Kiera joins us in Studio 5 to talk about her new book, Big, Bold, and Beautiful, as well as some new music. You've written a book, Big, Bold, and Beautiful, and you chose to dedicate it to your grandmother. What made you do that?
Yeah, I did that because my Nana gave me my first book that changed my life. She gave me that book, I think, when I was like 17. I was in high school. And she showed me that this Christian walk and this Bible-based living is not just something that is only for the pulpit. It's for everyday life. And so I wanted to do this book because I don't think she knows, but so many conversations with her was, oh, you're gonna get me emotional. It was prophetic, and she just meant so much. It was just so many answers that she provided. And so this book came from, you'll see me talking about my Nana, my mom, my dad, my grandfather, and it's literally because they've been the voice of God in my life.
The title of the book is Big, Bold, Beautiful. What's the story behind the title?
So I'm a juicy girl. You can see it in my face. And while we are currently in a progressive world, we're getting more into embracing body positivity. But I tell the story of when I was younger. I think I did my first record when I was 15. I was bigger than what I am now. And boy, oh boy, they used to tell me you had to do photos from the waist up. And I knew what that was like to be the big girl in the crew of other straight-sized young girls, you know? And so after a while, it was kind of eating at me while I was in wrong relationships. I would be cheated on, and I would just immediately feel like, well, am I good enough? Am I not cute enough? But I had to make sure I was defining what beautiful is to me than it was for everybody else, because I would just pick at myself. So I was like, you know what? I'm changing it. I'm changing the game. You ain't gonna call me fat, baby. I got the juice. I'm big, bold, and beautiful. So that's where the title came from. And I asked them, please let me have this title, Big, Bold, and Beautiful. And so they were so gracious to me. And I think it's going to connect. So it's not just for the woman who struggled with her weight, but maybe you have big eyes. Maybe you got a big mouth. Maybe you got this big personality that people can't handle. Maybe you got big feet. Or maybe it's just something big about you where you feel like it's not fitting in a certain space. And so I'm basically encouraging the reader to own it. It's a part of you for a reason, and figure that part out and live in it.
Before I go any further, I want to dive into you're releasing a deluxe album. In addition, I mean, you're a busy woman. Tell me about the new project. I know it's familiar to some, but it also has new music, correct?
Absolutely, and I'm so excited about this new music. There are songs that we sat on. One in particular, "Live for God." We did that song, I think, in 2016, and we held on to that song, and it was just the perfect time. And it's basically talking about live for God, be bold about it. It connects the dots with the book. And then this other song with "Something Has to Break," featuring my mother, who put me on the map, by the way. Of course, with that, we had to come together. But that song will, yes, that song will be on there. And then it's another song that I dedicated to my father, a good man. And then this song that is out now, it's called "Out of My Mind," and I'm just very transparent about, you know, being in and out of my thoughts and just not being clear. Like, should I think this? Should I not think this? And I think a lot of us can relate to that story. But it redirects you to the central place that we should be in, and that is with Christ. So I'm really excited about this music.
Kiara's Big, Bold, and Beautiful, Owning the Woman God Made You, hits bookstore shelves this week. In fact, it was released just yesterday. Her deluxe album was released Friday, April 9th. You can catch her on Studio 5 this week in the countdown, along with recording artist and worship leader Dante Bowe. You can sample Dante's new album this evening on Studio 5. You can find it on the CBN News Channel tonight, beginning at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, why this old man is celebrating Christmas all year long. We will be back with more of CBN NewsWatch. It's coming up right after this.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Well, it may not be Christmas time anywhere in the world right now, but for one elderly man, Christmas is something to celebrate all year long. For years, Ira Miller has devoted his time to packing Christmas boxes for children through Operation Christmas Child. And on his 104th birthday this year, he packed his 1,000th box. Why does he do it? He says, I still want to do something for the children who didn't know the Lord. I return all my thanks to him. Amen. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is open. Remember this, trust God. He opens doors that no man can shut. Walk through them. Be sure, though, to never leave him on the other side. Bring him into the room where he's given you the space to enter. He's made room for you. You must make space for him. With that word, I encourage you to make today a wonderful Wednesday. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, also at cbnnews.com. We love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at the email address on your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Make it a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.